Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh, Radia, and I'm your host. Always love starting each episode by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed with this podcast, the people it reaches, the places it gets to. I started it with the intention of simplifying spirituality, guiding people on this spiritual journey, and with the messages we receive on a weekly basis, it's clearly having an impact. So thank you everyone that listens on a weekly basis. Thank you for everyone that supports. Thank you for all the messages we receive. Every time we do get that sort of communication, it does lift our soul. So thank you. I am an Akashic record reader. I'm a Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. I love what I get to do. I get to guide people to truly be their authentic self. And I really do feel like we've been pushed more than normal. I feel like the whole planet's going through an energetic shift, and I get to hold people's space and guide them as they're expanding and truly understand themselves, and as they go through rebirth and truly kind of get reborn and understand why they're here. So I love what I get to do. I feel very blessed with it. And this podcast wouldn't be where it is today without my beautiful co-host, introducing the amazing, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, and published author, Stacey Brown. Stacey, you want to introduce yourself?
It's so good to be here and be in this space. This podcast has had such an impact on so many, and I feel honored to be here with you again, Nimesh. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I'm also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor, and a recently published author. My book, Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender, is available on Amazon and Audible. Really looking forward to getting into this topic today.
Yeah, so am I. And I feel like this is a series of topics. So on last week, we released an episode around trauma and the role of trauma in spiritual awakening. And so many associated topics with that, right? Everything's connected in the spiritual journey. And, so we were like, what do we want to do next? And for me personally, recently I have a lot of stuff come up for my inner child. And I've done a lot of inner child work before, but it just felt like an appropriate topic. So this week we're going to be talking all about reconnecting with your inner child and healing those past wounds. Your inner child has, and we talked a little bit about it last week, but has such an impact on your day to day. And when we talk about inner child, it's not just about what you went through as a childhood, and that was obviously important because your childhood experiences do shape you as an adult. In terms of what you experienced, emotions, beliefs, patterns. But also, what did you bring in? What trauma did you bring into this life to heal? What is your inner child holding on to from that? Your inner child also has a big impact to your ego. So this is your inner child, and healing your inner child is a really big and major part of your spiritual journey. And it's not like a one-time thing. I mean, I've done a lot of inner child healing myself, and we'll talk through it, and Stacey has too. But it's different things come up when you're ready to heal them, right? I'm a big believer that when you're ready to heal, then that's when things show up. So if things are coming up for you, that means they're ready to heal. If you're being triggered by certain things, that means you're ready to heal. So, but we always start with understanding our childhood and the experiences and how they impact us. And it's not about good or bad. Whatever we went through as a child, parents did the best job they could, etc. But it's more, how did that impact you? And a lot of the time, what we've been through as a child, especially the more painful stuff, so we push it down, because as a child, how do you deal with it? But as an adult, you have an opportunity to heal that inner child, to really understand what you went through as a child and how it's impacting you today. And, how is really having those deep conversations about what you went through as a child, how is that impacting you today? That's really where you begin. Awareness is always the first stage in any kind of spiritual experience, spiritual journey, in anything really, because unless you're aware, how are you going to do anything about it? So really understanding your inner child, being honest with what you've been through, I mean, I grew up, I'll talk more about it, but I grew up in a loving environment, but there's so much to happen, and sometimes you don't realize it because you just, it's kind of a form of spiritual bypass. You just discount it because as an adult, you're dealing with adult issues, but everything's connected. So, Stace, let's get into it. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Like I said, I've been doing some inner child healing recently, so it's very pertinent to what I've been going through recently. But I'd love to know more about you. I mean, you've talked a lot about your journey on this podcast, your childhood, your adulthood, and kind of how that's impacting you today. I'd love for you to talk about the impact of your inner child, and when I say this topic about inner child healing, how does that impact you, and how does that make you feel?
It's so interesting because I feel like when we do these episodes, sometimes it zings me in just the right spot of like what I'm dealing with, what I'm going through at the time. And I often wonder if our listeners, if it zings them in the same way that it zings me, because I just feel like this is something that's coming up for me right now in a big way. So this, it doesn't feel like this would be connected, but I just want to be very open with the audience that I've been struggling lately. I'm in the UK visiting, and I take daily medication, and my meds have been lost in transit to being shipped here. And I'm having some side effects from not being on the medicine. And one of the side effects has been nightmares. And those nightmares have been around childhood. And for those who don't know, almost 6 years ago, my 17-year-old son plummeted into issues with mental health and substance abuse. And it really caused a massive divide in my family. I mean, it blew the family up. My marriage ended in divorce, partially because of the stress. And I also broke ties with both of my parents during that time. So it's been almost 6 years since I've had contact with either one of my parents. And on a day-to-day basis, I know that it is the right thing for me to not have them in my life. I believe that they did the best they could with the knowledge that they had at the time. But the way that I was taught about love was that it was conditional. It was based off of your performance and whether you were accepted or not for that performance. And I have really struggled with coming to terms with the fact that I don't have parents that I can rely on. I never have. I never have. It has always been conditional. And it has been something that I've really struggled with. And it has greatly impacted the way that I parent my own children, because I want my children to feel accepted and loved by me no matter what. And I'm fiercely dedicated to that and being there for my children in a different way. But I still wonder, even at 48, why I was given the challenge not with one parent, but with both. And, my father had what I believe was a breakdown when I was 22. And he very publicly and very abruptly left my mother for another woman. And my mother broke down, and the dynamic of my family shifted very significantly. And I still struggle with why I was given this challenge in life, I've absolutely had other people come into my life who have loved me and treated me like family. Um, but there are times where it's really hard to understand the difference between how your parents feel for you and how you feel for yourself. Because there are moments when I'm tired or weak or vulnerable where I wonder what is wrong with me that the people who brought me into this world aren't capable of being there for me the way that I feel I deserve to have parents be there for me. And it has had such a ripple effect. You know, I am the oldest of three girls. Um, and I was not a very good big sister. Um, there was kind of this mentality of every man for himself. And you would throw a sibling under the bus to save yourself from the wrath of being in trouble with a parent. And so it has affected my relationship with my siblings as well. And I'm estranged from my sister, who I love dearly. And I feel like I've gone through all of this massive shift in my life as an adult. And the people that I would want to be there and be a part of it the most are not. And it has been deeply painful to navigate through this and to come to terms with it, especially when I see other families like yours that are so loving and accepting and embracing one another and doing family things together and that kind of thing. And I don't have that. I've gone through 6 years of significant, painful setbacks, from divorce to selling my dream home in the country to having a surgery that was botched to having another surgery and being in bed for 3 months recovering to COVID. And it's been back to back things that have challenged me. And I've had to navigate a lot of that on my own. And it's something that I wouldn't wish on anyone. I really believe that we need the support of our families. And when we don't have that, it can make a massive impact. So this is a tender topic for me. I feel like I've done a lot of healing as far as my inner child goes, but I'm recognizing in this season that there's more work to be done.
Thank you as always for sharing so vulnerably. As always, there's power in your share, and taking time to understand whatever you've been through. Like I said, is really the first step. So, we talked about soul contracts in previous episodes, and it's always good to remember that, and it's painful, right? That the soul contracts we have with our family aren't there to always to say they should love us. They're normally there 9 times out of 10 to teach us something, but not always to love us. It's our programming, it's our expectations of what we expect from our family that sometimes makes us disappointed. And so maybe that's the first thing to consider for our listeners, is to remind yourself that whatever you went through as a child is part of your soul's journey. It is part of what you contracted to be here, and that is a combination of releasing your own karma, ancestral karma, also what your soul contracted to experience in this lifetime. That's why you picked the blood family you did, and they're here to teach you something. So understanding what you're here to experience and knowing that your family actually played the roles that your soul asked them to. The human may struggle with it because there's expectations, right? Stacey mentioned my family, and yeah, I mean, I'm blessed with having a lot of love around me, and with my blood family, right? Not all of them. There's one brother that we don't talk to, and there's history there. I've still got love for him. But yeah, I mean, even my childhood, right? There's a lot that I don't always talk about, but at 3 years old, for the first 3 years of my life, I was spent in different parts of Uganda. First 18 months we struggled, and then we started a business in another location, and that we thrived for the last 18 months. But at 3 years old, Idi Amin decided, that was the dictator of Uganda, decided that all Indians had to leave within 2 weeks, or they'd get killed and shot. So we had 2 weeks to leave. On our journey back to, we got the UK decided to accept things like 15,000 refugees at the time from Uganda, and so we were one family they accepted. But there's stories. I was 3, so I don't remember. But there were stories of us being stopped every 30 minutes at gunpoint, being searched, because the thought was that as we're leaving Uganda, we'll be taking valuables with us. And a number of times there was, both my brothers were held at gunpoint. I should have said I've got a big family. I've got 4 brothers, 4 sisters. One sister that's younger than me. Everyone else is older, so I'm 8 out of 9. So it meant we came in the UK. We were in an army camp for 6 weeks, and then we moved into Teesside, which there was no Indians. There was only 2 Indian families, both from Uganda. So my younger years was really trying to belong and trying to find space to belong. Everybody in the family was busy. So I never had a voice growing up. And, those that have heard my story have heard me talk about this. I didn't have a voice. I was didn't really feel part of anything. Everybody was, and the thing is that there was still love. Everyone was just trying to do the best they could. None of us knew the language. So depending on the age, you were trying to fit in school, or you're trying to find work, and you were trying to figure out life. Parents were, again, just trying to figure everything out, right? And so it meant that we all struggled, and I didn't get a lot of attention. My younger sister did, because she wasn't well. So the work I've been doing recently, I realized that when I feel like I've still got to do work on my 3-year-old. I've done a lot of work already, and it's interesting. It's not my trauma. I feel it's the trauma of the people around me that I carried. And this is the thing, when you do your research about what you went through as a child, it's easy for me to say this, but try and do it without judgment. Try and understand what you went through. And always remember that you've got to forgive others, but you've got to remember to forgive yourself. So I feel like I've done a lot of work on my 3-year-old, but there's still work there. But recently I've done work on my 8-year-old. My 8-year-old just didn't really want to be on the planet, didn't feel like he got any attention. And what did that inner work look like? That work was me actually just imagining my 8-year-old in front of me, connecting with my 8-year-old, going out to play with my 8-year-old, and kind of going on the swings, having a conversation. And I'd highly recommend that, right? I mean, yes, you can work with lots of people. We do inner child work through our mentorship, through coaching, through whatever you want. Also, you can open your Akashic records, but understanding your childhood and understanding that from a non-victim perspective, because you are who you are today because of what you went through. The next thing I'm working on is my 12-year-old. I remember my 12-year-old didn't really feel like he belonged on the planet. There was so many times I'm sure a lot of people can relate, not feeling like I should be here, not feeling like I belong, not feeling like, my 12-year-old was angry. I remember I used to have to travel like an hour and 90 minutes to school every day on the bus. And I remember looking at other kids and, wondering why they got to live so locally, why they had local friends, why they got to experience fun, and I got to experience traveling home that long, and then kind of getting into a family situation where everybody was busy. And again, I love my family, right? There's a lot of love there. And I've done a lot of work with this human, right? This older version of me, but again, I've got to honor that 12-year-old and understand that he was going through something, and he was angry. He was angry, and it took me time to get through to him, because he was really angry. He really didn't feel like he belonged on the planet. He just didn't feel like he had. And actually, the overriding emotion I felt was anger. Anger at the cards he'd been dealt. And the reason why both me and Stacey are telling you these stories isn't, that we want sympathy from anybody. It's just maybe understanding our stories trigger something in you to understand what you went through as a child, because it's not good or bad. Like I said, Stacey talks about her growing up, and when you look at it on the outside, it's very different, right? I grew up with a lot of love, but I just didn't have any attention. It's interesting. I was talking to my sister about it. My younger sister, she stayed over for a week this past week, and she was on about how quiet I was as a child. How actually, growing up, I wanted a computer, and I asked her to ask my parents for it because she was more likely to get it. So, but she also remembers a story. She remembers a story where the BBC News were looking for a big family to interview about a new tax that was going to be introduced in the UK, the poll tax, and they went to one of our relatives, and they had a big family, but they didn't want to be interviewed, so they suggested us. And the news crew came round, and I don't remember any of this, but apparently out of kind of the whole family, I did all the talking, and it's really interesting because I don't remember any of it, but my sister remembers how surprised and proud she was, because I was quiet. So, but isn't it interesting that something that happened to me as a child actually has impacted my adulthood, because now I feel my voice is my gift. So there was something there for sure. So all of this just to say that your childhood gives you so many clues. And it gives you so many clues about what healing you need to do as an adult. So if you look at your relationships, your self-worth, and if there's the stuff that's happening there, then go back to your childhood. Go back to things that you experienced, because maybe there is work to be done there. Because I know that the anger of that 12-year-old that I've been working through has affected my relationships, has affected kind of me as an adult. Me almost expecting to be let down as an adult. And yeah, I've done a lot of work on it, so this version of me is different. But actually, with the work I've just recently done, again, there is another layer that I've been going through about, again, the same expectations. And the connection to what I have to the is recently we've gone through and closed so many cycles. And, 2024 was such an energetic shift. And even January 2025 has been the same. So it means that for me, and, maybe for you, the listeners, it's the same. It's brought up a different level, different traumas. And, a lot of the time we have a tendency to push it away. Or a lot of the time we tend to see I've dealt with that. And I don't believe in repeat cycles. What I believe in is that if something else is coming back up, it's a deeper cycle. So maybe that's the point of this episode, is to really sit down and understand and ask the question, what did I go through as a child? What am I holding on today that needs to be released? And, like I said, I would always recommend just intuitively trusting whatever age comes up. And then maybe bring that version of you up in front of you. Just have a conversation with yourself. Go on a journey with that child. What comes up, be honest with yourself. Because I do find, even myself, is I push it down, I push it away, because I want to deal with what's coming up today, right? I don't want to, sometimes I push back. I don't want to deal with the inner child stuff. What's happening in my world today? But actually you can't separate the two. It's all connected. And, so Stacey, I'd love to know more about you in terms of the stuff that's been coming up for you. What are you doing to kind of heal that inner child? What's your recommendation?
Well, I think the first thing is I've had to dig into recognizing how that childhood stuff has impacted my relationships as an adult. I've chosen partners who in the past were toxic. And I believe that a huge part of why I did that was because I was raised by a narcissist. And so I chose men who were wounded and who had toxic traits and ultimately weren't healthy for me. And I've had to really dig into that to heal that part of me and to find a relationship that is healthy. And I think a huge part of what I'm going through right now is recognizing the impact that my childhood has had on me and had on the relationships in my life so that I can move forward in a healthier way. And I think the other thing that I'm experiencing is recognizing that I need to rely on myself and that I have the power to decide how I let this impact me. I can either let this part of my story define me and define my relationships and my life and how I move forward, or I can choose to heal from it and make sure that I am a healthier mom and partner than what I was raised with. And it's hard because I didn't have an example of that. So I've had to learn it on my own. And learning it on my own has been really challenging. Like I said, I've chosen partners that haven't been healthy. And there's been this kind of brokenness in my history that I no longer want to be defined by. And so I want to move through this. And I would say I'm still a work in progress. Um, it's just interesting how stuff comes up that we think that we've healed and then it comes up again. Like I remember when everything was happening with my son and going through that trauma, it re-triggered trauma from my childhood that I had already worked through in therapy and counseling and in numerous sessions to heal that part of me. And yet when I'm watching my son go through trauma, it's re-triggering the trauma of my childhood. And so the healing that I did wasn't enough. There's another layer to be healed. And I believe that a lot of us go through that. We can either sit in the mess of what was and not face it, or we can face it and try to move forward, knowing that it may come up again. And for me, it's come up again. And I thought I was done with this. I really do. I really did think that I was done with this and that I had moved past it and made peace with it. And I think on a certain level I did, but the universe is requesting that I go deeper.
Isn't that interesting, right? Um, I'd say that the healing journey is a lifetime experience, right? It's not a one-time thing, and sometimes it's our expectations of things being done that stop us from. And it's the words "I know." They're the most dangerous words in the because what's that saying is, "I'm not open to any more healing on that topic." So it is recognizing the triggers. It's recognizing that you are almost reparenting yourself, right? I mean, Stacey talked about how you were parented is affecting how you parented your kids. And that's not a good or a bad thing, right? It's just but how you're parenting your kids and doing it consciously is an important part of this journey. And but reparenting yourself, giving your inner child love, maybe the inner child, getting your inner child love that you didn't get as an adult or you didn't get as a child. Like I said, going back to your 3-year-old, your 5-year-old, whatever age you need to, just giving that version of you love, reparenting yourself, letting that person know that you're safe. Because, for example, I know that what I experienced as a child has led me to, in many relationships, almost anticipate to be hurt. And then I know there was times I wouldn't follow through with the relationship because I would just expect to be hurt and therefore I'd leave before that actually happens. So, but there's no judgment there, right? I haven't got a time machine, so I can't go back to those relationships and think about what I'd do differently. That is what it is, right? You've got to believe that whatever comes up when you're ready to heal it. So the triggers, listening to this conversation, if you're listening to it, just is a sign, is a signal that you're ready to heal something. Because there's so many layers to healing. It's not, I mean, we talk about so many different topics. Self-care is such a big part of everything, what we talk about every week. But, trauma and how that dark night of the soul in a child is all connected. It's all part of your healing journey. There's no just one facet of it. But give yourself love. What does that self-care look like? Can you go and have fun? Can you go out and go to a park and be on the swings or whatever you want to do that your child maybe would love? Go and laugh, like giggle like you never, and just reparent yourself. Know that you are loved. And Stacey talked about it, right? She talked about falling in love with herself and you knowing that actually everything you need is inside you. And it's just that doesn't mean that you don't relish the love that and you don't embrace the love you get externally, but at the same time, you accept and know that everything you need is inside you. It's a really interesting balance, from a human perspective, that how we created, because so much of what we've been taught about is to prioritize everybody else and to look for love outside. It's just look for the love of a parent, look for the love of the partner. It's like when we're married, then we'll be happy, or when we're this, we're that. But it's like, actually, what if all the love we need is inside us? But at the same time, we should allow love in externally, but it should be complementary, not conditional, right? And it's just being that student. It's being curious as to what you're going through and how is it teaching you. I have to say, I was resistant doing the inner child work. I was just like, I've done so much work here. I've done, come on, this is like, there's a bit of frustration in me. It's like, well, hold on, I've done so much work here and so much. And yes, of course, I've enjoyed it. And it's just, actually, I wouldn't say I've enjoyed it. I have embraced it. Let me put it that way. But like, wait, more? But there's a divine timing to it. And, but also understanding, what are you breaking free from, right? Because again, Stacey talked about how she's parenting kids. So she's trying to break a pattern. She's trying to break a pattern and be different from how she was. So it's that recognizing that, the trauma, the generational trauma you're also really releasing, right? It's just that there's so many facets of what we carry into this life, right? It's how we were parented, what were we impacted by religion, but also what trauma do we bring in? Like me, what would my life be like if I wasn't thrown out of Uganda? I have no clue. In some ways, I feel very blessed, and in many ways, I feel very blessed with the life I've led. But yeah, there's sometimes I wonder what life would be like, and that's okay. There's no, I don't. It's not like I'm like have the regrets of, oh, I wish I could live my life differently, because I haven't got a time machine. I've got to accept who I am today. But there's also power in just going back. So as you listen to this episode, I highly recommend you spend some time doing some of that inner child work, really asking yourself, what did you go through as a child? What are you holding on to? And know that actually everything you've been through has helped you to become the person you are today. But also, if you've been triggered by the recent months and the recent energies, then that's also maybe another time to release something else. Doing the normal stuff we talk about, meditation, journaling, mirror work, energy healing, booking a Akashic record. There's so many things you can do to heal your inner child, but you have to be ready. You have to be the one that says, okay, I'm ready. Yes, maybe I've done inner child work before, maybe I've done, but actually, I'm ready to do more. And where does that take you? So, Stacey, how do you feel about the inner child healing that you're doing? What's your next steps? What are you going to do to embrace the inner child?
So I think having conversations like this is huge, right? Acknowledging what I've been through and speaking about it and processing it is a big part of it. Um, I have a therapist that I see that I plan on, seeing when I get back in the US and delving into more of this and processing it and working through it. I don't want to sweep it under the rug. I don't want to. I want to move through it in a healthy way and be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. So whatever I can do to work through it, I plan on doing. I don't believe that we are meant to do this work alone. I believe we're meant to do it with support. And I've already worked through so many layers of it that I'm willing to do more and navigate through it. I don't want this to define me. I want this to be a part of my growth and my healing, that I can move forward in a healthy way and be better for my kids and be better for my partner and really do the work. Even when it's uncomfortable, I feel like it's worth it. It means being a healthier version of myself today than I was yesterday. And that's been my commitment. And so I stand by that. And I plan to continue doing whatever it takes in order to move through this. I think in the interim, journaling is a powerful technique and a way to connect and work through some of what I'm going through. I do a lot of reading, and I think that's very helpful. I'm reading a book by Deepak Chopra right now that has been really helpful. And I'm just determined to do everything I can to navigate through this so that I can help other people. If I sweep this under the rug, then what kind of mentor am I? Right? Like, this is something that has impacted me and I know impacts a lot of other people. And I want to set an example. I want to be a motivator for people to understand that though it might be uncomfortable, it's worth it. There's a payoff in the end. And that's being liberated from the things that once defined you. And I refuse to allow this to hold me back from a life that I long to live. I want to be a healthy, happy person. And part of that is working through the past. And it may come up again down the road. And I've got to be willing to do the work then as well. But it's coming up for a reason. And I am determined to do everything I can to work through it.
And that's powerful, right? That is the power of the work that we're here to do. It's just, and I can resonate with what Stacey in terms says. We're here to mentor people, guide people. I have to say, I'm doing it for me. I'm just, I'm doing it for sure, secondary to help others. But I'm a soul having a human experience, and I would encourage you to embrace the human experience. It's just such an interesting time to be on the planet. The planet's going through such a shift, and I feel like so much more is coming up in us to heal. So it's a beautiful time to do that healing. And for sure, ask getting help is such a powerful thing. Healers need healing too. Some of the stuff I'm working through, I'm working with a previous guest, Natasha. Natasha's been a friend for many years, and she's a transpersonal psychotherapist and does a lot of somatic psychology work. And we did I guided her to the Akashic Records, and so she's guiding me through this. And when the student's ready, the teacher will show up. So if there's something in our voice, because we've done a lot of inner child healing for others too, so there's something in our voice that resonates, then reach out. But it is a powerful time. It is a powerful time to really understand what you're going through. And your answers are inside you. So the first thing we'd always recommend is to sit and be silent and really be honest with yourself. What are you experiencing? How does your inner child feel? And if you have to pick an age, what age would that be? And accepting that the roles that people are playing in your life is exactly the roles that you asked them to play. So if you're not getting the love from your parents, your family, then maybe that's not what your soul asked them for. And I know it's hard, right? Stacey talked about it earlier. But has the universe, have you manifested other people in your life to maybe give you that divine father, divine mother, divine sibling type energy, type vibration? Because if you're open to it, I do believe the universe will send you other souls that can energetically play that role. But who said that our parents were meant to love us? Who made that rule? It's our programming. And of course, I wish for everyone that's listening to have loving parents, a loving family. But like Stacey, she's cut off her family because it wasn't conducive. It wasn't this version. And because the other thing is we've been through so many rebirths, and it means that this version of us may not resonate with the family anymore. And it's always good to ask, has my soul contract with this person complete? And that can include family members. And it even doesn't mean that you need to cut everybody off, but it does mean that you stop giving your power away. And really asking that question is, well, hold on, what was my soul contract with this person? Is it done? And you get your answers inside you. It's a feeling. There's not always a definitive response on is my soul contract complete? But there's a knowingness in you. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll know. And sometimes we hold on because it's our expectations. And we do that in relationships too. It's when we enter into relationships, there's a lot of love there, and there's expectation of how that relationship will continue. And sometimes we stay in a relationship because of what we expect from that relationship, not what the reality is. And so you're a powerful soul having a human experience. So embrace, you chose to be here. You chose to be here at this time. And I know for me, choosing and knowing that I chose to be here, even though I don't feel like I'm part of the planet, but knowing that I actually chose to be here and I'm needed and I'm wanted was a big part of my journey. And it still is. So I'd ask you to embrace that too. But the best thing you can do for your inner child is go and have fun. Do something playful. Do something curious. Be that child. Because with the current energy, you felt it from both of us, there's been so much happening in and inside us and around us that we get lost in that. But there's so much healing energy. There's so much power in just going out and having some fun. And you don't have to always do it with other people, right? You could just go out onto the park on your own and just go for a walk in nature, whatever, right? Go to a theme park, go for a swim, whatever thing you want that says to you that you're being carefree and enjoying life, do that. And just it's such a powerful time to embrace your inner child. And like we both said, if we can help, reach out to us. We love this work. We love to guide you. Just as we get into the close out of this episode, but always remember that your inner child exists inside you. It's part of who you are. It's part of, and embracing your inner child is an important. Some people sometimes confuse the inner child with your ego. Your ego is impacted a lot by your inner child, but they are two separate things. But your inner child has a big influence on your emotions and your choices. and healing that inner child, but first becoming aware and then healing really does provide a deep transformation and really kind of helps you to fall in love with you. Triggers. What have you been triggered? Those triggers are helping you right now. And just, Sidra, our mentor, who's no longer in this realm, would always get excited when she was triggered because it means that something's ready to be released. And I know that sounds weird. Reparenting and being your own parent and loving you in the way that you want to be loved is so powerful. And like I said just now, play, joy, have fun isn't important. We talk a lot about, Stacey was emotional earlier. Our crying and connecting with our emotions is such an important part of our spiritual journey. But having fun and just embracing and laughing and having a belly laugh is also very, very healing. So Stacey, as we close this out, I'd love for you any final bits of wisdom, any journal prompts, anything you'd love to share that you feel would help our listeners. I'd love to hear from it.
I just feel that it's super important to do the work and to not shy away from it when it comes up. I think a lot of us want to avoid things when they come up because it's uncomfortable, but there's so much power in walking through the uncomfortable and coming out the other side a healthier version of yourself. And so I encourage you to do that. I would also do some writing, some journaling, and see what comes up. When you ask yourself, what are the memories of my childhood that are sticking with me, or what am I churning about right now that needs to be released? And allow yourself the space to write about it and see what exactly comes up when you think about it. When you think about your childhood, are you excited by it? Do you have positive memories? Do you have negative memories? Do you have things that you want to release, but you're afraid to? I also believe this is something we're not meant to do alone. I know for me, I've had to do it with support, and I have found that support exactly when I needed it. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're churning about your inner child, maybe it's time to reach out and get some support.
Great advice. And that, like I said earlier, it's powerful asking for help. It's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And right now, I feel like we need all the support we can get. So reach out to us or reach out to whoever you feel. I'd always say that whoever you work with is a soul contract. So feel it, ask for it. When the student's ready, the teacher will always show up. So if you're ready to release it, then make sure you find the right teacher that's right for you, that resonates with you at a soul level. Thank you. I'm sending you all so much love. There's so many energetic shifts happening at this time, and be present. Know that you chose to be here. You're a powerful soul. We love what we get to do. We love this podcast. So thank you. If our voice resonates, reach out. Sending everybody so much love and light. And Stacey, I'm going to hand over to you to close us out.
I want to remind everybody we have our free Zoom healing session on March the 13th. We would love to have you join us. We'll include the link to register in the show notes. So if it's something that you want to be a part of, it is a powerful experience and it's free. Thank you for joining us on another powerful episode. We'll see you all soon.
And just to mention about the Zoom, US clocks change. So for everyone that anyone outside the US, it'll be at 4 p.m. UK. 8 p.m. UK. Still be 4 p.m. EST as normal. Just wanted to give that public service announcement. And if there's any, we just should have mentioned it earlier. We've just introduced a powerful new program to become a spiritual mentor. Our 3-month mentorship program is really a self journey to really connect with you. We've just introduced a second 3 months to that, so it's a 6-month total to guide you to become a spiritual mentor. So if you feel like you've got a calling to become a spiritual mentor, reach out. Maybe that program's right for you. Sending everyone so much love and light. And again, Stacey, sending you so much love and light, giving you the biggest hug. I'll speak to you and everybody else very soon. Bye for now.